Have you ever heard some players use these fast licks, but when you try to do it, it's just a sloppy mess? Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to play fast so you can keep up with faster songs or throw in some speedy licks into your playing just to show off a little. So let's go and get started with the video. Now, the first thing that you need to understand is that to play fast, you need to have a great sense of an internalized rhythm that holds up even at faster tempos. So on a basic level, this means that you need to be able to keep a beat at fast speeds. Now, most players don't intentionally work on this, and they just develop speed through time and experience. Now, if you try playing over faster songs and you keep trying until you get it, eventually you're going to tighten up your rhythm, but it's a really long and drawn out process to get there. Now, instead, I think this is something that you can work on directly with a metronome. So what I'm suggesting here is that you do some scale practice to really tighten up your rhythm, and we do this over a metronome, and we keep bumping our tempos up until we're playing at really fast speeds. And I'm going to walk you through this process. Because we are working on scales here, and we'll talk about riffs and stuff a little later, you're going to also need the notes. So you can do that. You can get all those notes by downloading my scale cheat sheet. The link is down below in the description. Okay, so let's start with this. We're going to choose a scale, and that's ideally one that is relevant for the music that you're trying to play. So if you want to play the blues, you might want to choose the blues scale or the major pentatonic scale in second position. I'm on a C harmonica. I'm going to be using the blues scale personally. And just for now, just to keep this a little tighter, I'm going to be focusing on the middle octave. But if you can play the full scale, I would highly suggest that you go and do that. So it would sound like this. But again, if you can do the full scale, I suggest you do that. Now, if you're still having trouble with bending, you could maybe study the notes of my no bend blues scale in my scale cheat sheet that will give you a second position scale that does not use bends that you can use to get used to playing in a bluesy style of music without having to worry about your bends at all. You can just work on them and add them in there when you're ready. All right, so you've chosen your scale and you've chosen a range of your scale that you can play, like the middle octave or the full scale. If you can play the full scale, do that. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to be using that middle octave. Now, here's where the work begins. We're going to get out a metronome and start at a low tempo, like 60 beats per minute. We're going to listen to that click and then play your scale along with the metronome and try to be as accurate to the beat as humanly possible. You need to push yourself a little bit here. For some of you watching this, this might be extremely hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but once you can tighten your rhythm up and you can find the notes and you can do this a few times without a mistake, then you're going to get a little bit better, and then you're ready to increase the tempo. And we would go like 60 beats per minute, 80 beats per minute, 100 beats per minute, and we'd work our way up to a fast speed. It sounds tedious, and it can be, but it's also a challenge. It takes all of your focus. It's a lot to be able to go and do this, especially when we're playing really quickly. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to speed up after every successful scale run, but for you are probably going to want to play a scale at one speed enough times until you have a pretty high success rate. And if you want to play fast, you need to work your way up to fast tempos. If you can play your scales at like 260 beats per minute, you can really play with almost any speed of music and be consistent. I want to be clear that you really do need to push yourself up to those higher tempos if you want to be able to play well over fast music. All right, I want you to hear what this process would sound like as I work my way up to faster and faster speeds. Let's go and get started. All right, so I'm going to work on that blues scale. I got a metronome on my phone. There's a ton for free. You can even get them just like on Google by searching in metronome. All right, so here's the deal. I'm going to start at 60 BPM and I'm going to play the blues scale note for note, and listen to how accurate I am. Now, I want to make a point here that I'm hitting the beat every time that there's a pulse. I'm not going fast. I'm not going a little slow. So if you're playing and it sounds like this, that's not going to cut it. And if you're a little slow, that's also not going to work. We got to be rock solid, okay? And once you can get it rock solid, you're finding all of the notes and you can get it really locked in with the beat, which might be a little easier if you, instead of taking your focus on the scale, if you take your focus to actually just listening to the beat. You know, there's a lot of things we can focus on when we play, and sometimes if you listen to the music or you listen to the metronome, it's going to actually help you be a lot more accurate. So once you get that at, let's say 60, then you're going to go to 80, okay? Same thing. You do it a couple times, you get it to actually work at that speed, then we increase the tempo by about 20. If you're in a rush, you can increase by a bigger gap, let's say 40. Here's 100, okay? I'm gonna go all the way up so you can really hear what this sounds like. One thing I also want to point out is as you get faster, it's going to be harder to keep up, right? And you might find that you might want to like tap your foot as you go. And I think that will help you be a little bit more accurate. So we can keep working our way up. Here's 120. Make sure that when you're doing this, if your scale has bends, that you're getting those bends accurate as well. I'm going to keep going. Here's 140. Again, it might take you a handful of times to get it as tight as I am, but that's the process. Here's 160. All right, makes sense. Here's 180, and we're just going to keep pushing it. All right, and same thing as I'm doing. You're just going to keep going faster and faster once you're successful. Now I'm successful the first time around. It might take you time 20 for you. It just is what it is. Here's 200. Getting a little bit better, right? I'm going to make a bigger leap now. Here is 240. Now, you can keep pushing this higher and higher and higher. I'm going to, again, take another bigger leap. I'm going to go all the way up to 300. Now, think about it. If you're able to do that at 300 beats per minute, play it, not make any giant glaring mistakes, it would be pretty easy to play over fast music, wouldn't it? It's just like, it just makes sense. If you can develop your internalized rhythm that well, then when you actually take it to the test and you play over music, it's going to be easy. Hopefully you can see how this would help. Once you can keep up with the beat at those faster tempos, playing fast music becomes trivial. Now here's one way that you can practice. You can put on a fast song, like a fast blues backing track, and then just do those scale runs like you've been doing over the metronome, but over music this time. Here's what that would sound like. All right, so here's a demo of me doing this scale over a fast blues swing, key of G. The backing track link will be down below in the description. I'm just gonna play over the music, play my scale like normal. Here we go. Once you can go and do that, then you can really just start improvising here using the notes of your scale in whatever order that you choose. Just let your intuition guide you and you'll be able to play fast over something like this. If you can do this with the metronome and you can do this over the music, you should be able to actually, you know, change things and change what note you're starting on and what note you're going to and be able to keep up with that beat. So let's take a listen. Here we go. Playing over fast music like this is really energizing, but that's where it starts. It starts with the scale work, getting high, getting really good at that. then applying it over music, and then taking the limitations away. Just to make sure that you're following along, we're using the metronome to get us used to playing at these fast speeds, and then we are going to take that skill and actually apply it to playing over music by running our scale over a fast song. And with this, you're going to develop your internal sense of rhythm, and once you have that faster sense of rhythm, you can apply this to various licks and just your improvised playing as a whole. But let's talk about these licks. Now, here's a few. First, we have triplets. You can play triplets anywhere. We're going to count them like triplet, triplet. It's divided into 3. One that I really like is 4 half step draw bend, 4 draw, 5 draw. And you can work on speeding that up so you can play it really at any song and play it very fast. And if you're having trouble getting up to that speed, you can approach it in the same way that we did the scale. You can turn on your metronome, right, at a slow speed, get it together, and then work your way up to faster and faster tempos. The metronome is such a useful tool for developing your rhythm. And once you get it working fast, it's just a matter of pulling it out in a song. Now, the triplets were just one idea, but there's plenty of other things that you can do here. There's like fast scale patterns that you can use. One way to go even faster than you might think you're capable of is to use some riffs that involve a bunch of adjacent holes, because you could just slide through them so you can play them pretty quickly. Like in third position, I like doing this one. Okay, it's easy to play this really fast because you're just gliding between adjacent holes. Now, have you ever heard John Popper of Blues Traveler play like on a song like Run Around? He's one of the fastest harmonica players out there, and I've learned a couple of his harder songs, and his speed really comes down to playing adjacent holes really quickly, which works for him because he's using a Mixolydian scale when he plays, which means that all of the blow and draw holes work in some way, so he can afford to move around really fast because he doesn't need to be careful. However, he has a solid sense of internal rhythm, so he can play a flurry of notes and do a whole bunch of things, but he's staying in time with himself. And for you, you can get there by happenstance, or you could just pull out a metronome and you can work your way up. And I think working with this with scales in the first place is the best way to do it. If you can't play something at a fast speed, you slow it down, you work your way up, and with that approach, you can really learn anything, and you can listen to other players and find their little fast riffs and licks that they play and try to understand like what notes are they using, and once you get the notes, you can work on them with the metronome, start them slow, and work them up to a fast speed. Metronomes are your secret weapon if you want to play fast, and if you want all of the notes to practice with, if you start with scales first, check out my scale cheat sheet. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time. Peace.